The cold tea hit Peace square on the back, soaking through her uniform in one horrible second. She froze. The laughter came first, loud and sharp, cutting through the school hallway like a knife. Then the water came, thrown from a different direction, splashing across her shoulder and dripping down her arm. Peace stood there, shaking, her school bag clutched tight against her chest, her eyes filling with tears she was desperately trying to hold back. She would not cry in front of them. She would not. But her body did not listen. Her lips trembled. Her vision blurred. She turned and ran. She ran all the way to the classroom, threw herself into her seat, buried her face in her arms, and sobbed. Her shoulders shook. Her breath came in short, broken pieces. She had not done anything to those boys. She never did anything to them. But that never seemed to matter. That was the kind of school Peace had been walking into every single morning. Her name was Peace, but her life at school had been anything but. She was 20 years old, tall, dark-skinned, with warm brown eyes that carried a softness most people never got to see because they were always too busy looking past her. She had transferred to this school just a few months ago, and from her very first week, a group of boys had decided she was their favorite target. They mocked her accent. They mocked the way she dressed. They threw things at her when teachers were not watching. And every single time, Peace would swallow the pain, hold her head up just enough to get through the day, and go home and cry where nobody could see. Nobody except Seo-Yeon. Seo-Yeon was Korean, 20 years old, with sharp eyes that noticed everything and a quiet kind of boldness that most people did not see coming until it was already standing right in front of them. She had arrived at the school around the same time as Peace, and from the very first day she saw Peace sitting alone at the back of the class. Something in her chest had pulled her forward. "Is this seat taken?" she had asked, pointing to the empty chair beside Peace. Peace had looked up, surprised. "No?" "Good." Seo-Yeon had sat down, pulled out her textbook, and then glanced sideways. "I am Seo-Yeon. I just moved here. I do not know anyone yet. You look like someone who does not cause trouble. I like that." Peace had blinked. Then, slowly, she smiled. "I am Peace." Seo-Yeon had nodded once. "Good name." That was how it started. Simple. Quiet. Like two seeds dropped into the same soil, neither of them realizing yet how tall they were both going to grow. By the second week, they were walking to class together. By the third week, they were sharing lunch. By the end of the first month, the whole school had noticed that the quiet Korean girl and the gentle black girl were inseparable. People would stop and stare when they walked side by side. Not because anything was wrong with the picture, but because there was something so right about it that it almost felt rare. Two girls from completely different parts of the world, laughing together, finishing each other's sentences, sharing earphones during break time. People admired them. Even the ones who would never say it out loud. But admiration did not stop the boys. The group called themselves the Kings. There were 5 of them, led by a tall, sharp-faced boy named Daniel. Daniel had the kind of confidence that came not from kindness but from knowing that most people were too afraid to challenge him. He had decided, for reasons that made no real sense, that Peace was funny to torment. Maybe it was because she never fought back. Maybe it was because she always looked like she was carrying something heavy and he liked making it heavier. Whatever the reason, he had made her life miserable. And Seo-Yeon had been watching. On the day the tea and water were thrown, Seo-Yeon had been walking down a different hallway. She had not seen it happen. But she walked into the classroom and found Peace hunched over her desk, crying silently, her uniform still wet, her whole body trembling with the effort of trying to stop. Seo-Yeon put her bag down slowly. She pulled her chair close. She did not say anything at first. She just sat there, her hand resting gently on Peace's back, letting her know she was not alone. After a long moment, Peace lifted her head. Her eyes were red. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "They threw tea on me. And then water. In front of everyone." Seo-Yeon's jaw tightened. She breathed in through her nose. out through her mouth. Who? Seo-Yeon, please do not. Who? Peace looked at her. There was something in Seo-Yeon's eyes that she had not seen before. Not anger exactly. Something quieter than anger and 10 times more dangerous. Daniel, Peace said. And his group. Seo-Yeon stood up. Seo-Yeon. Stay here. If this story is already pulling at your heart, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. Now let us get back to Seo-Yeon. She found them in the corridor near the science block, still laughing about what they had done. Daniel was leaning against the wall, his arms crossed, looking pleased with himself. His boys were around him, grinning. Seo-Yeon walked up and stopped directly in front of Daniel. The laughter faded. Daniel looked down at her. Can I help you? Yes, Seo-Yeon said, her voice completely calm. You can help me by making sure that what you did to my friend today never happens again. Daniel raised an eyebrow. A slow smile spread across his face. Your friend? The tall girl? We were just having fun. That was not fun, Seo-Yeon said. That was cruelty. And I need you to hear me very clearly right now. If you touch her again, embarrass her again, throw anything at her again, or even breathe too close in her direction, I will make sure every single teacher in this school knows exactly what kind of people you are. She paused. And I keep very detailed notes. The smile on Daniel's face flickered. His boys exchanged glances. Seo-Yeon did not move. She did not blink. She just stood there, 5 feet 4 inches of absolute certainty. Daniel laughed, but it came out shorter than he intended. You are serious. I am always serious, Seo-Yeon said. Then she turned and walked away. The next morning, Peace was walking toward the school gate when she heard footsteps running behind her. She turned, and her heart jumped, bracing for something bad. But it was Seo-Yeon, slightly out of breath, her backpack bouncing, her face breaking into a wide smile the moment their eyes met. Peace did not think. She just opened her arms and Seo-Yeon walked right into them, and they stood there in the middle of the path, hugging like they had not seen each other in years, even though it had only been one night. Thank you, Peace whispered into Seo-Yeon's shoulder. Thank you for standing up for me. Always, Seo-Yeon said simply. They walked into school together, side by side, and for the first time in months, Peace's steps felt lighter. She did not look over her shoulder. She did not brace herself at every corner. She just walked, her best friend right beside her, and it felt like armor. The weeks that followed were the best Peace had known since arriving at that school. She and Seo-Yeon started going to the library together every Thursday afternoon, sitting across from each other with their books spread between them, talking in low voices about everything and nothing. That was where Peace told Seo-Yeon about her mother back home, how she used to braid Peace's hair every Sunday morning while humming old songs. That was where Seo-Yeon told Peace about leaving Korea, about how strange it felt to be somewhere new where nobody knew your name and everything felt like the wrong size. Did you miss home? Peace asked one afternoon, looking up. Seo-Yeon was quiet for a moment. Every day, she admitted. But less now. She looked at Peace. I think home is sometimes a person, not a place. Peace stared at her. Then she reached across the table and squeezed Seo-Yeon's hand once. That is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. Seo-Yeon looked slightly embarrassed. Do not make it strange. Peace laughed. And Seo-Yeon laughed. And the old librarian at the front desk shushed them both, which only made them laugh harder. That laughter carried Peace all the way to the end of term examinations. She studied harder than she ever had, fueled by something she had not felt in a long time. Purpose. Not just to pass, but to prove something. To herself mostly. But maybe also to every person who had looked at her like she was less than she was. When the results came out, Peace's name was at the very top of the list. First position. The whole class. The teacher read the name out loud and the room went still for one long second. Then someone started clapping, and then another person, and then the whole classroom was full of sound. Peace sat in her seat with her hands pressed over her mouth, tears running silently down her face. Seo-Yeon was on her feet before anyone else. "That is my best friend," she shouted, pointing across the room. "That is my best friend right there." "Seo-Yeon, sit down," the teacher said, but even the teacher was smiling. Peace laughed through her tears. She looked across the room at Seo-Yeon, who was still standing, still pointing, still glowing with pride as if it were her own name at the top of that list. And something deep in Peace's chest cracked open in the best possible way. She had never felt that scene before. Comment right now and tell us where you are watching from. We love seeing where our amazing viewers are. Now let us continue. When the new term began, things felt different. Brighter. Peace walked taller. Seo-Yeon walked with her everywhere. The boys had been quiet. And Peace had let herself believe, maybe too quickly, that it was over. Then came the basketball practical. The class was out on the field, the afternoon sun warm above them, the sound of sneakers on the court and balls bouncing filling the air. It was supposed to be a good day. It started like one. Peace was running across the court when the ball hit her. It was not an accident. It came too hard and too aimed to be anything close to accidental. It struck her on the shoulder and knocked her sideways, and when she looked up, she saw Daniel standing at the edge of the court, his face wearing that familiar, lazy cruelty. His boys laughed. Peace stumbled back up. Her shoulder ached. Her throat tightened. Then something moved at the edge of her vision. Seo-Yeon was already crossing the court. She stepped directly between Peace and Daniel, placed herself right there, and then in one fast, clean motion she raised her hand and brought it down across the side of Daniel's head in a slap that sounded like a thunderclap. The entire field went silent. Daniel's head snapped to the side. He stood there, frozen, one hand rising slowly to his cheek, his eyes wide with disbelief. Nobody had ever done that to him. Not once in his entire life. Seo-Yeon stood her ground. Her chest was rising and falling fast, but her eyes were steady. "If you throw one more thing at her," she said, her voice low and controlled, "I will not stop at one." Everyone was staring. The teacher had not even reached them yet. The whole school seemed to be holding its breath. Daniel looked at her. Something shifted in his face. Not rage, which was what everyone expected. Something else. Something that looked, just for a moment, almost like shame. He turned and walked away. His boys followed without a word. The field exhaled. Peace walked up beside Seo-Yeon and touched her arm. "Your hand," she said softly. "Are you okay?" Seo-Yeon flexed her fingers slowly. "I am fine," she said. Then after a pause, almost under her breath, "That felt correct." Peace looked at her best friend, this quiet, fierce, extraordinary girl who had walked into her life and refused to walk back out, and for a moment she could not find any words at all. She just held Seo-Yeon's arm a little tighter. They stood there together on that field, and the world moved around them, and nothing about the moment was small. It was 2 weeks later when the flower pot fell. Nobody planned it. It had been sitting on the edge of a high shelf in the school hallway, a heavy clay pot full of dry soil and old roots, pushed too close to the edge by years of people brushing past it carelessly. Daniel was walking below it. He did not see it tilting. He did not hear the slow scrape of clay against concrete. He was walking alone that day, his head down, hands in his pockets, taking a different route to class because he had been doing that lately, avoiding the places where Peace and Seo-Yeon usually were. Peace was coming from the opposite direction. She saw the pot shift. She saw the angle. Her brain did the calculation in a fraction of a second and her body was already moving before her mind had finished the thought. She ran forward, grabbed Daniel by the arm, and yanked him backwards as hard as she could. The pot hit the floor 2 feet in front of them with a crash that shook the hallway. Soil and broken clay scattered across the tiles. Students nearby screamed and jumped back. Dust rose in the air. Daniel stood there, breathing hard, staring at the broken pieces on the floor. Then he turned and looked at Peace. She was standing behind him, her hand still gripping his arm, her own breath coming fast from the sprint. For a moment neither of them spoke. "That was about to hit your head," Peace said quietly. Daniel looked at the pot. Then at her. Then back at the pot. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. He stopped. Swallowed. "You saved me." Peace released his arm. She straightened her bag on her shoulder. "Yes," she said simply. And then she walked away. "We are at the middle of this story and we need you to do one thing right now. Like this video if you have felt anything in the last few minutes. It tells us to keep making stories like this one. Now let us keep going." 3 days later, Peace was alone in the library when she heard the chair across from her scrape back. She looked up. Her whole body tensed. Daniel sat down. He did not say anything immediately. He sat there with his hands flat on the table, staring at them like they were something he did not quite recognize. Peace said nothing. She watched him. Finally, he looked up. "You saved my life," he said. "After everything I did to you." Peace held his gaze. "Yes." "Why?" She considered the question seriously. "Because it was the right thing to do," she said. "That is all." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Something was cracking open behind his eyes. "I have been horrible to you," he said. His voice was low and rough, like the words were being dragged out of a place he had kept locked. "I do not have a good reason. There is no good reason. He exhaled hard. "I thought it was power. Making someone feel small. I thought it made me something." Peace did not speak. "It did not," he said quietly. "It made me nothing." The library was very still. Outside, somewhere in the distance, there were voices and footsteps and the ordinary sounds of school life. But in here, in this small corner of the world, something serious was happening. Then the library door opened. Seo-Yeon walked in, 2 ice cream cones in her hands, and she stopped dead when she saw Daniel sitting across from Peace. Her eyes went sharp immediately. She looked at Peace. "Are you okay?" "Yes," Peace said. "Come sit." Seo-Yeon did not sit. Not right away. She stood there, reading Peace's face like a page she knew by heart, making sure she was telling the truth. Then slowly, she walked forward and sat beside Peace, handing her one of the ice cream cones and keeping the other. She looked at Daniel. He looked at her. "I am not going to apologize for the slap," Seo-Yeon said flatly. Something passed across Daniel's face that was almost a smile. "I know," he said. "I deserved it." The 3 of them sat in the quiet for a moment that felt longer than it was. Then Daniel said, "I am going to talk to the group. I am going to tell them to stop." He paused. "It might not go well." "Do it anyway," Seo-Yeon said. He nodded once. Then he stood up, pushed in his chair, and walked out. Peace watched him go. Then she turned to Seo-Yeon. "He was apologizing," Peace said. "I know," Seo-Yeon said. "He was sincere." "I know," Seo-Yeon said again. She looked at the ice cream in her hand, then at Peace. "You are too good, you know that." Peace smiled slowly. "You are pretty good yourself." What happened next at school surprised everyone. Daniel went back to his group and told them plainly that they were going to leave Peace alone. He told them what she had done, how she had pulled him out of the path of a falling pot that would have broken his skull, how she had done it without hesitation, without conditions, without even waiting for a thank you. The head boy of the group, a boy named Marcus, laughed in his face. "She saved you and now you are soft." Marcus said. "We should be ashamed of you." "Then be ashamed," Daniel said. "I am done." Marcus threw him out of the group on the spot. In front of everyone. Made a show of it, loud and deliberate, the kind of public humiliation designed to follow a person through the hallways for months. Daniel walked away from it without looking back. The next morning, he found Peace and Seo-Yeon at their usual spot near the front steps. He walked up to them and stood there with his hands in his pockets, looking slightly like a person who had never stood in a place this uncomfortable before. "I told them," he said. "It is done." Peace looked at him carefully. "And you? Are you okay?" He blinked. Of all the things he had expected her to say, that was not one of them. He paused. "I will be." "Good," Peace said. "Sit with us." Seo-Yeon looked at Peace. Then at Daniel. Then back at her ice cream, which she had already started before school began because she had no apologies for that. "Fine," Seo-Yeon said. "But I am still watching you." "That is fair," Daniel said. Saturday. And something new and fragile and real began on those school steps that morning. The weeks that followed were strange at first. Strange in the way that good things sometimes feel strange when you have been waiting a long time for them. People noticed Daniel walking with Peace and Seo-Yeon. They whispered. They stared. Some of them laughed behind their hands. Nobody could quite understand why the most visible member of the Kings had suddenly left and started keeping company with the two quiet girls everyone had always underestimated. One afternoon, out at the playground, a group of students finally walked up and asked him directly. "Daniel," one of them said. "Why did you leave the group? Why are you with them now?" Daniel was sitting on the edge of the bench. He looked at the boy who had asked. He looked at the small crowd that had gathered. He thought for a moment, and then he said something that would be repeated across that school for years to come. "When you realize your worth," he said, "you set boundaries." The crowd was quiet. "I was with them because I thought that was where power lived. I thought making people feel small was the same as being big. But it is not. Peace never fought back once, and she is stronger than any of us have ever been. She saved my life. She did not even ask for a sorry first. That kind of person," he paused. "That is who I want to be near. Not the people who laugh when someone falls. The people who run forward to help." Nobody said anything for a long moment. Then someone at the back of the crowd started clapping. Then another person. And another. Until the playground was full of sound, and Daniel sat there looking faintly surprised, and Peace stood a few feet away with her hand over her mouth and tears on her cheeks, and Seo-Yeon stood beside her, nodding slowly with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had known all along that this was how the story was going to go. "Did you know he would say something like that?" Peace whispered. "No," Seo-Yeon admitted. "But I hoped." Peace looked at her best friend. This girl who had sat beside her when no one else would. Who had stood in front of her when the world was throwing things. Who had brought ice cream to the library and refused to apologize for the slap and said that home was sometimes a person, not a place. "Thank you," Peace said. "For all of it." Seo-Yeon bumped her shoulder gently. "That is what we do," she said quietly. "We show up." And they stood there together, the three of them, in the middle of a school that had slowly begun to look a little more like the world it was supposed to be. Not perfect. But better. Warmer. More honest. Full of people who were learning, one hard lesson at a time, that kindness was not weakness and that the quietest person in the room was sometimes carrying the most strength. Peace had known that all along. It had just taken everyone else a little longer to see it. If this story moved you, please subscribe, drop a like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know whose day you might change. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. That means everything.